Hello everyone, a very good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to all of the viewers from around the world. This is your host Vaibhav in today's session of JForex Indicators Explain, where we will be considering an interesting indicator. The name is Directional Movement Index (DMI). This is the indicator which is used to look for the trend as well as the strength of the trend. It is a multi-purpose indicator, and we can use it for different market situations to look at the market dynamics and make sense of the sentiments prevalent in the instrument of our choice. And with the help of this indicator, we can determine whether it is appropriate to look for the buying opportunities or selling opportunities, or even if you want to gauge the strength of the momentum, you can do that as well. So let us now head to the JForex 4 platform, the newly released trading platform from the Dukascopy Bank SA. This is the Euro USD chart plotted with the hourly time frame. I will change it to full screen. Alright, now we have the chart on the full screen, and here you will find this indicator listed amongst the momentum indicators. It's taking a little bit time to respond. You will find this indicator listed amongst the momentum indicator just below this CMO, which we had considered in the prior session. Now today is the turn of DMI, average directional movement index. Generally it is called as directional movement index, but here we have two different indicators, and the DMI and DX. So this name average directional movement index is also utilized for another indicator, average directional movement index, here ADX. So that might sound confusing. So I think it is better to simply focus on these initials, the DMI and DX, which we will consider in the next session of JForex Indicators Explained. So here you can simply type in the DMI and it will appear. All right. So this is the indicator plotted on the Euro USD with the candlestick time period being hourly. We have the ADX. Three components are there for these indicators output: the ADX, positive directional index, and the negative directional index. We get the idea of the strength of the trend using these ADX output. If we have the output on the positive side with rising trajectory, then that means the strength of the trend, whatever is the trend, whether it is bullish or bearish, is increasing. And if we have the indicator seeing its ADX value going in decline, that means the momentum is waning. The momentum can be on any side. To get the idea of the trend apart from the strength, then we rely on these two other output values, the directional index and positive directional index and negative directional index. We have both these components which help us in determining the prevailing trend of the Euro USD. We had this sharp move in last session yesterday after the release of CPI data for the United States. After that, we saw the negative directional index sharply moving on the higher side as we had this sharp move for Euro USD on the lower side of almost 150 pips, and then the decline had continued for next couple of hours also. Even in today's session, the price movement has been rather sideways and there has not been significant correction or movement on the higher side from the lower price levels. So we can look for the strength of the trend and utilize the opportunities to make the trading decisions. So here in this case of the output values, we had this sharp move of the negative directional index on the higher side, and at the same time the positive directional index moved to the lower side, and that bearish sentiment pushed these two output values apart. And only in today's session we are seeing gradually these two values are converging as price action has gone sideways, and that can also be further confirmed with this decline in the ADX output value. Still it is above 25, but it is in decline, and when we have the ADX above 25 and in decline, that means the momentum is waning. But if the momentum is on the rise, then usually we have the ADX above 25 and rising. So that is one key indicator of the strength of the trend. Now if we consider these two output, these are derived using the price action data. We consider the current high and current low values, and we compare both these values to the prior high and prior low respectively. So we arrive at the directional movement using the current high minus prior high to arrive at positive directional index, and we use the current low minus prior low to arrive at negative directional index. The formula is a bit more complicated. I am just giving you a simple idea of the underlying concept. For full formula, you will of course have to refer to the various search results you might get if you simply type in and search on any of the search engine available in the internet. So you will have a detailed formula there, so I am not going into the formula, but the classical interpretation is very simple. We can utilize these two output values of the indicator to make the trading decisions, and we can utilize these ADX to optimize the entry and exit points. So the timing of the entry can be utilized using these ADX output, whereas the directional decisions can be taken using these two output values, the positive DI and the negative DI. So the classical interpretation is that when we have these minus DI, the negative DI above the positive DI, that means the underlying trend is bearish for the instrument of choice, in this case the Euro USD. And if we have the negative DI below the positive DI, that means we have bearishness prevalent in the instrument of our choice. So we have both these output values providing us important markers to make the trading decisions, and utilizing those values we can look for optimum trade entry and exit. Here if we consider these two outputs for making trading decisions, then we can utilize this crossover structure, and along with that we can also look at individual values of this positive DI and the negative DI output if you want to take the buy trade. And at the same time, if we have the directional index value, the positive directional index value on the rise and just crossing above 25, that can also be used as a trading signal to go for the long trade. And similarly, for the sale trade, we can utilize the negative directional index value. If we have the negative directional index value moving above the 25 and on the rise, then we can consider the opportunity arising in the price dynamics to be appropriate for shorting. So both ways we can trade using these indicator. Now let us see what are the customization options available on the platform to customize this indicator for our requirement. So these are kind of simple to implement, simple to utilize. Here the default calculation period for this indicator is 14, but you can vary it, you can lower it, or you can increase it depending on your requirements. If you are a trader who likes to make trading decisions on lower time frame data, then utilizing lower time frame for calculating these indicator is appropriate. So here these indicators values are being calculated using last 7 hours of data. We have the candle period defined as hourly, and we have taken calculation period to be 7. So we are approximately looking at 7 hours worth of price movement in the Euro USD to make sense of its price momentum. And as you can see from these output values, it is showing that the momentum is not really there. We have seen the all three output values, the ADX, positive directional index, and the negative directional index, all staying below 25 and actually going in decline. That signals the absence of the strength of the trend on both the sides, so you can make trading decisions in light of that. Now, for considering the larger time frame data, you all you have to do is increase its calculation period, and you will have these plotting of all the three output parameters using these larger time frame data. Okay, so here are these three output values now defined using last 24 hours of data. You can increase it further to 50. As we increase the calculation period, we will see that the responsiveness of these output values become a lot lower to the recent fluctuations at more and more amount of data is considered. But we have a lot smoother output values, and the trend generated tends to last quite long in the instrument of our choice when we are using the larger data points for calculation and interpretation of these indicators. Now I will restore it back to default settings 14. We have these three output values and we can go for three different color combinations. I think this color combination is looking just fine. So if you want some of these lines to be more prominent or less prominent, you can vary the design of these output values, increase or decrease the width to arrive at different combinations. So we have, if suppose if you want the ADX output to be less prominent, and at the same time the positive DI and the negative DI to be less transparent as well. You have these customization options available for plotting of these output values, and now we can see that the chart is looking a lot more stylish. Of course, the prominence of the indicator has decreased as I have opted for higher transparency. So because of that, it becomes helpful when we have multiple indicators plotted on the same chart. So you can vary the transparency options, and because of that the chart won't look too cluttered to make sense of the price action data. Levels, we don't really have any option on the level section. Coming to the advanced calculation settings, if you want the output of all these three key parameters to remain constant throughout the current candle period, then you have to opt for these recalculate on new candle only. If you want the highlight time period under calculation to be highlighted, then you have to opt in for this. If you want the calculation to be done from the custom data, then you have to go for the instrument. It can be anything from the chart. Whenever you will vary the instrument of the chart, the plotting of the indicator, the directional movement indicator will appear. But if you simply want the plotting to be done only for the Euro USD, then you have to state it here. The candle period follows a similar concept. You can use the candle period to be same as the chart, or you can customize the calculation period as per your choice. And in that case, whatever is the candle period of the chart, it won't be utilized in calculation of the indicator. Rather, whatever is your choice, only that candle period will be used for the calculation of this indicator. Suppose, for example, I use 5 minutes as the calculation period for this indicator, even though the hourly chart is now being displayed here. The calculation is going to be based on 5-minute candle period. So here we have the output of this DMI indicator based simply on 70 minutes of data, as we have taken 14 candles of 5 minutes each. So that makes a lot of difference how this indicator is calculated. The spread side can be ask or bid, so you always get these two options, and there will be slight difference in output depending on which spread side you're using. The base period can be none or 4 hours, day, weekly, or monthly. So these four options are also there. So guys, that's it from my side for today's session. If any of you have any query or any idea to share, you can write back to me in the feedback section, and I would be more than happy to take the discussion forward. For further coverage of the market developments, do check out the Dukascopy Analytics page. We are also available on the Facebook. You can reach out to us there too. So I will be back tomorrow with a new indicator, new explanation, new uses. Do check out the JForex 4 platform, for which I have also included the link in the bio. Have a good time, make a lot of money. See you tomorrow. Goodbye.